Hello friends, welcome to our YouTube channel Code 369. In this class we are going to see React, okay? From this class we are going to learn React. So this is the first class of React and this is full stack development. Today is class 72, okay? And we are learning front-end development libraries from the website called FreeCodeCamp, and I have given the link in the description box to access this website. So please check it. So far we have completed Bootstrap, jQuery, SASS. Okay. Now we are going to see React. So first of all we have to know what is React. React is a popular JavaScript library for building reusable component-driven user interfaces. Okay. So simply React is a popular JavaScript library. Okay. And one more thing is React combines HTML with JavaScript. Okay. React combines HTML with JavaScript into its own markup language called JSX. So React combines HTML and JavaScript, and the combined language is called JSX. Okay. So whenever we say JSX in the React, it simply refers to the combination of HTML and JavaScript. Okay. So let us get into the course. So let us do the exercise. The current code uses JSX to assign a div element to the constant JSX. Okay. Replace the div with an h1 element and add the text hello JSX. Okay. So what they are telling is we have to remove this div element. Okay. And we have to add h1. And add the text of hello JSX. And now you can see the output here, hello JSX. And one more thing here is very important. It's worth noting that under the hood, the challenges are calling React DOM.render, JSX, okay, all these things. So what they have said here is this code, okay, React DOM.render, JSX, comma, document.getElementID, root. This is added behind, okay, behind this code. So that only it is displayed here. Okay. If it is not added, this message will not be displayed. So let us see it in the VS Code editor. Open the VS Code editor, and I have given the video in the description box. Okay, video link in the description box of how to create a React app. Okay, and open it in the browser. So please check that video. And after creating a React app, what you have to do is go to your React app in your VS Code folder and open src and open index.js. So I have already written these things. Okay, so let this. By normal you will be having all these things. Okay, by normal you will be having all these things by default. So what you have to do here is just copy this code, okay, and paste it here, and then copy this code also, paste it here. Now what is the usage of this code? This is the code which is used to display your code in the browser. For example, I have written hello JSX. So if you have to see this message, you have to write this code, then only it can be visible in your browser, otherwise not. So JSX is the constant name, so I have given it here. Okay, then you have to give document dot get element by id of root. Okay, so this root is nothing but, if you go to your public, here you can see public folder, open it, and in it open the index.html, and this is the body element of the HTML. Okay, and they have created a div element inside it, and that is having the id of root. Okay, so what we are doing here is, go to your index.html now, sorry, index.js in the src. So now what we are doing is, we are sending this JSX code to the HTML. Okay, for that we are using the id of root, okay, which is present in the HTML page. Okay, so this is very simple. Now press Ctrl S, and now you have to open your React app in your browser. So right click on the file name. Okay, right click on the file name and click open in integrated terminal. So in the video of how to install the React app, I have clearly explained all these things, how to open the React app. Okay, so now give dir if you are having Windows, and give npm start. Okay, now you can see React script start. And one more thing, if you do not have all these default code, okay, if you forgot, if you have deleted all these code, what you can do is, you can write these code. Okay, by manually you can write these two lines. So these two lines are the very important: import React DOM. Okay, so these two lines are very important, so write it by your own. Okay, that's it. So go to, so this is what our React app, but it does not show any message, because here you can see, a code, React DOM / client. Okay, so we should remove this client. So this should be the actual code. Okay, these two lines should be the actual code. So even if you have deleted all this code, you can write it by your own. Okay, the first two lines. Now press Ctrl S for saving it, and go here and reload. Okay, it automatically reloads, and now you can see the message of hello JSX. Okay, so the things which you have to learn is, you have to write these two lines of code, and you have to write this code also. Okay, in order to make it display, and then you have to write the code. Okay, JSX code. That's it. So press Ctrl Enter. So now what you can see here is, by declaring a constant, okay, by declaring a constant and giving it a head element and heading element, and giving a message, okay, then you are typing the constant name here. Okay, by doing this, the JSX code written in this constant will be displayed in the browser. Okay, now what we are going to do is create a complex JSX element. So this is a very simple JSX element. Okay, Now what we are going to do is we are going to create a complex JSX element. So here is an example they have written. So inside the development they have written 3 P elements, okay, 3 paragraph elements. And one more thing is here they have told valid JSX and invalid JSX. So what is valid JSX and invalid JSX? In JSX, okay, and one more thing, whenever I say JSX, it means the combination of HTML and JavaScript code, okay. So here you can see development, P element, these are all HTML code. And JavaScript also we will be using, but not here, okay. In this example, JavaScript is not used here. But even if it is not used here, this is a JSX, okay. So what is a valid JSX and invalid JSX? Valid JSX is nothing but only one element should be there. For example, okay, in JSX here there is only one element, okay, development, and inside that development only multiple elements are stored, okay. But here you can see here there is no one element, there are 3 elements. So this is an invalid JSX. So whenever you write JSX, all the elements should be enclosed in a single element, okay. That is what is important here. Now define a new constant JSX that renders a div which contains the following elements in order. So you have to create a constant called JSX, okay, and that renders a div. So we have to give development. So inside this development only we are going to write all the code. So in the previous example also you can see there is only one element, okay. There are not multiple elements, there is only one element. Even if you have to write multiple elements, you have to nest inside the single element. For example, inside this H1 element only I have to write all the other elements, okay. So here inside the development what they are saying is we have to write some elements in this order. For example, H1 is the first element, and then a P element, so give P, and then an unordered list that contains 3 Li items. So in order to add unordered list you have to give UL, and you have to add 3 Li elements inside it. So give Li, okay. And copy this, Alt Shift down arrow. So you can include any text you want within each element, okay. So here in the heading I am saying JSX, okay. And in the paragraph I am giving this is a React class, okay. And in the list I am going to give first lesson, second lesson, third lesson, okay. And one more thing is here you can now you are seeing the output here, okay. And one more important thing is you are seeing all the code in this FreeCodeCamp editor, okay. But what you have to do is you have to check all the code in your VS Code editor, okay. You have to write all the code in your VS Code editor and you have to see the output. Then only you can learn the things quickly, okay. If you are just using this code editor, this will not be that much useful. So you have to use your VS Code editor and you have to check how the things work, okay. So just copy this and paste it here. And now you can see I have given the constant name here, okay, JSX. So this is the constant name JSX and I have given JSX, and we have to give document.getElement by ID, and that should be having root. Okay. Now press Ctrl S and go to your React tab. Now it automatically reloads. Okay, now we are seeing the output. So this is how we have to use React. Now press Ctrl Enter. Now we have to add comments in JSX. Okay, so how to add comments in JSX? To put comments inside JSX, you use the syntax. Okay, this syntax. Inside the curly brace, you have to give slash asterisk asterisk slash. Okay. The code editor has a JSX element similar to what you created in the last challenge. Add a comment somewhere within the provided development without modifying the existing H1 or P elements. So where is JSX? This is the JSX code. Okay. This is the JSX code. And what they are saying is we have to add comment somewhere inside the development. Okay. So you can write code here. Use curly braces and give backslash asterisk. Okay, and write this is a JSX code. Okay, and close it. So this is how we should use comments in the JSX. Okay, press Ctrl Enter. Now what they are saying is render HTML elements to the DOM. Okay, so rendering is nothing but this is what rendering. Rendering means displaying the content in the React app. Okay, in the browser. So displaying the JSX content in the browser, that is called rendering. Okay, so that is why we are using React DOM.render. Okay, so here they are telling us to do that. Okay, so we have to render this. So copy this code. So you don't have to copy here. From here you can copy this. Paste it here. And what you have to do is you have to write the constant name here, and that is JSX. Okay, you have to write the constant name here. So that is JSX. Okay. Now you can see the output here. In the previous challenges, they have included it by default. Okay. So hereafter you have to write this code by yourself. Press Ctrl Enter. And what they are saying is the provided JSX element should render to the DOM with the ID challenge node. So this ID is different here. Okay. They have used some other ID. So we have to change that ID to challenge node. Okay. Press Ctrl Enter. Now define an HTML class in JSX. Apply a class of myDiv to the div provided in the JSX code. So what you have to do is you have to create a class name in the JSX. So but one thing is different here. Okay. In normal HTML we will be creating the class name with class word. Okay, class keyword. But in JSX we have to use class name keyword. Okay. So let us create a class here in the JSX. So create class name keyword equal to, we have to create a class here, and that is myDiv. Okay, we have to give myDiv. So now the class is created here. So press Ctrl Enter. Now we are going to learn about self-closing JSX tags. Okay. In JSX, every tag should be closed. For example, here you can see this P element is closed. So this is the open tag and this is the close tag. Okay. And here also you can see the h2 is opened here and the h2 is closed here. But for break statement at all, okay, for break statement and all, we cannot have the close tag, okay. If you know HTML very well, it is very you will be knowing it very well, okay. So for break statement at all, we will not be having close tag. But in JSX, everything should be closed, okay. But in JSX, every element should be closed. So what we should do is, we have to close the elements by giving backslash at the end of the tag name, okay. So here the HR, horizontal line, is also open here. So now we have to close this using backslash. Now we can see the message here, okay. Press Ctrl Enter. Now create a stateless functional component, okay. So hereafter we will be using name of component, okay. So component, that is what very important in React, okay. Now we are going to create a component, okay. So now you can see here, this is a component, okay. So this is a component. So let us copy this, okay, and paste it here. So what I have done is, I have copied this thing, okay. So here you can see, this is from the previous challenge, okay. So this is from the previous challenge. So we have created a constant called JSX and we have written the JSX code here, okay. So all these things will be displayed in the React app, okay, in the browser. So we have used a constant and we have written the JSX code. But here this is something different. Here we are using a function, okay, JavaScript function, and we have given the function name here, okay. And actually this is called a component, okay. This is called a component. So we have created the function with the name starting with capital letter, and in the return statement we are giving div class name equal to custom class, okay. So this should be okay. So what we are going to do is, here they have not written any code, so we are going to write some code here, okay. For example, I am closing it, sorry, I am opening, okay, and here I am going to write hello world, okay. Press Ctrl S and go here, and now we can see the message hello world here, okay. And you cannot see the message from this code in the React app now, okay, because there are two elements rendered here, two components rendered here. So delete the old one, okay. So what you can see here is, I have created a function, okay, and every function that you create in React is called a component, okay. And in the return statement I have given div element with display message of hello world, okay. And now you can see the message of hello world here. And one more thing important here is, so this is the old render code, okay. For this we have written the render element code here. But one thing which you have to notice here is, I have given the constant name JSX here, okay, without any tags, okay, less than, close than symbol. But when I have rendered this component, okay, which is having a function, I have used less than, greater than and the closing tag, okay. So one thing which you have to keep it in mind is whenever you render a constant, okay, variable, you can simply give the variable name, okay, constant name. But when you are rendering a component which is a function, you have to give it an inside less than and greater than symbol and close it, okay. That's very important, that you have to keep it in mind always. So delete this code, this is not necessary here. So delete this also. Press Ctrl S and now you can see the output here, okay. So that's it. And then we are going to see the exercise which is given here. The code editor has a function called myComponent. Complete this function so it returns a single development which contains some string of text. So it is similar of what we have done here, okay. We have rendered a development with some message, okay, so with some text. So that is what they are telling us here. So they have created a function here, okay. And one more thing, when I am writing all these code, I will be simply writing the message here, okay, like this. But when you are learning by yourself, go to your VS Code editor, okay, and write all these code by yourself, okay. Const my component equal to function, all these code you should be writing by yourself, and you should not be copying it, okay. You should not be copying this code in the VS Code editor, or you should not simply write the code here and go ahead, okay. What you have to do is you have to write all the code by yourself, okay, in the VS Code editor and check how it works. Then only you can understand all these things, okay. Otherwise you will simply forget all these things. So now we have to create a development here. So we can just copy this, okay. And one more thing, return statement is here, not here, so give return, okay. And you can use bracket here, okay. So all the JSX element, all the JSX code, you can put it in the bracket, okay. So just copy this and paste it here, okay. So now we can see the message of hello world. So the same thing which we have done, okay. And in this part they have not included the render element, okay, this code. So keep it in mind, you have to add this at every rendering, okay. So press Ctrl Enter. So now we are going to see create a React component, okay. Actually this is also a component, okay. You can see demo component, the name of the component. So this is also a component, but it simply includes a function, okay. And we are going to create a component in another way. For example, this is also a component, okay. But this is a class, okay. But this is a class. So this is you can see, so simply we can call, we can say this is a normal component, okay. This is a normal component when you are creating it using a function, and we can call this as a some advanced component, okay. We can call it as advanced component because we will be using we can be doing many things with this component, okay. We can do only less things using this type of component, and we can do many things using this type of component, okay. So we can call this as an advanced component, okay. So this is called as stateful component, stateless component. So in the upcoming exercise we will know it, I think so, okay. Yeah, it will be coming and I will say it, okay, when we are including state. So this is the structure of this kind of component, okay, class component. So give class and you have to give the component name and you have to give extends react.component, and inside the curly braces you have to give constructor, okay, with the property of props, and inside the constructor you have to give super of props, okay, and then you have to render and you have to return something here, okay, that's it. So like this, you have to return something here in the render element, okay, render method. So my component is defined in the code editor using class syntax. Finish writing the render method, so it returns a div element that contains an h1 with the text hello react, okay. So this render method should return a div element, okay, should return a div element that is having a h1 element, okay, that is having a text of hello react, okay. Now you can see the output, okay. So how can we write in our VS Code editor? So delete all these things, okay. Simply copy these things, okay. And you have to change the component name here, okay, in the in this rendering code, okay, react dom.render. So you have to give my component here, okay. So now this my component will be rendered in the browser, okay, that's it. Press Ctrl S to save this and you can see the output here, okay. Press Ctrl Enter here. Now create a component with composition, okay. So what does it mean? Now we will look at how we can compose multiple React components together, okay. Imagine you are building an app and have created three components, a navbar, dashboard and footer. To compose those components together, you could create an app parent component which renders each of the three components as children, okay. To render a component as a child and React component, you include the component name written as a HTML tag in the JSX. So here also you can see one thing. We should be having only one component in the index.js, okay. We should be having only one component and we should render it, okay. We should render it with the name of the component here. But what if we are using multiple components, okay. If we are using multiple components, we can do one thing. We can make other components as the child of this component, okay. So what we will be doing is, we will be nesting other components inside this main component, okay, in this parent component. So we will be adding other components into this parent component, okay. So there will be only one component which we can render, okay, and the parent component name should be given here, okay, and the other component should not be given here. So that's it. So let us see it. So this is what they are saying here, okay. So here you can see a function component is created here, okay, which is returning this paragraph, okay, which will return this paragraph, I am the child, okay. And here they have created a class component, okay, class component, and they told us to do some code here. So what is the code that we have to write? So in the code editor, there is a simple function and component, okay, and a class component. Compose the two together by rendering the child component within the parent component, okay. Make sure to close the child component. So what we are going to do is, already I told here, if there are many components, what we have to do is, we have to include the child component in the parent component, okay. So that is what we are going to do. We are going to include the child component, okay, this child component into the parent component, okay. So that is we are going to do. And how to do it? And one more important thing is that we know we are going to add this child component into this parent component, okay. But one thing is, why do we have to add this child component? Okay. So the reason is, I'm having a code here, okay. I am the child. So whenever I know I need this code, okay, whenever I need this code to be included in some place, what I can do is I can include the component name, okay. If I include the component name, what will happen is this code will be included, okay. So let us see how to add the child component. So here I have to include the child component. So what I can do is, I can use less than and greater than symbol, okay. And inside this I have to give the component name. So I have to give the component name of child component, okay. So give child component, and the uppercase and lowercase are very important. So give correctly, okay. Child component, and you have to end it using backslash, okay. So now you can see the output of I am the child. So here we are having I am the parent as the content in the parent component, but we have to include I am the child below this, okay. So we have to include I am the child behind this, sorry, below this. So simply I will be using the component name here, okay. So if I use the component name here, below this I am the parent, the content in this component, that is I am the child, okay. So that will be added here. So that's it. So copy all these code, okay. Copy all this code and paste it here in the VS Code editor. So now we are having two components. One is child component and parent component. So how we are going to display it? For example, I am saving this, okay, and going here, and it's showing some error. For example, my component is not defined, okay. So this is, we have to change the component name here, okay. This component name was from the previous challenge. So we are having two components here, and we have to render this, okay. So whether we will be giving the child component name or parent component name, we have to give the parent component name, okay. So this parent component is the component which we are going to display, okay. So we have to give parent component here, and we should not give child component, because child component itself is included in the parent component, okay. So that's it. Save this using Ctrl S and go here, and you can see the output as I am the parent, I am the child, okay. Press Ctrl Enter here. Now use React to render nested components. Okay, you can see many things here. For example, we are having a functional component, okay, which is having the name of types of fruit, okay, this functional component. And here you are having a functional component that is called as fruits, and again you are having a class component here, okay, that is having the class name of types of food, okay. So till now these functional component, okay, and the class component will be looking similar, okay? Because they are doing the same thing. They are doing the same thing. The functional component and the class component. But this class component will become important only when it is using state, okay? So in the upcoming challenges, we will be seeing a concept called state. So at that time only this class component will become important, okay? So now what they are telling us is there are two functional components defined in the code editor, okay, called the types of fruit and fruits. Take the types of fruit component and compose it or nest it within the fruits component, okay. So what they are saying is we have to nest the types of fruit component within the fruits component. So this is the types of fruit component and we have to nest it within the fruits component. So how to nest it? So here we have to nest it. So just give less than symbol and give types of fruit, okay, and close it. Then what they are saying is then take the fruits component and nest it within the types of food component, okay. Then what we are going to do is we are going to nest this fruits component inside the types of food component, okay. So here you have to give fruits component, okay. So now we will be seeing the message. So copy this whole thing and I will be explaining you, okay. So delete all these things. So types of food component is the component which we are going to render, okay. So change this to types of food and save this using Ctrl S and go here and reload. So now you are getting the output. So I am going to be explaining you it very easily. For example, here we are having a functional component which returns these content, okay, fruits and the list of fruits, apples, blueberries, strawberries, bananas, all these things, okay. And we are going to include this component inside this fruits component, okay, inside this fruits component. So already we are having a development in the fruits component and we have included this component here, okay. So what will happen is all these code from H2 to UL, okay. All these code will be included here, okay, here in this place. Then what we are going to do is we are going to include this component into this, okay. So all these code have got included here. Then we are going to include this component. So all the code included here will now be included here, okay. That's it. So below the types of food we will be having now fruits, okay, and the list of fruits. So now you can see below the types of food now you will be having fruits and the list of fruits. That's it. Press Ctrl Enter. Now compose React components, okay. So let us see this challenge, compose React components. So here in the code editor, the types of food component is already rendering a component called vegetables, okay. So there is already a component called vegetables, okay, that is included in the types of food component. So in the types of food component, already a component called vegetables is included, okay. So this content of the vegetables is added behind the scenes, so you don't have to worry about it. Okay. So in the types of food, now we are seeing vegetables. Okay. Also there is the fruits component from the last challenge. So there is another component called fruits. Okay. Here you can see the fruits component. Next two components inside of fruits was non-citrus and then citrus. Okay. So what they are saying is we have to nest two components inside the fruits component. Okay, one is citrus and another one is non-citrus. And both of these components are provided you for from the behind. Sorry, both of these components are provided for you behind the scenes. So you don't have to worry about the content of the non-citrus and citrus fruits. Simply what they are saying is you have to include the citrus and the non-citrus component inside the fruits component. Okay. Inside the fruits component we have to include non-citrus and the citrus components. So give non-citrus, okay, and close it, and then citrus component. Okay. So give citrus and close it. So in the fruits component we have included two components, one is non-citrus and another is citrus. Okay. Now nest the fruits class component into the types of food component. Okay. Below the H1 heading element and above vegetables. So what they are saying is we have to include this fruits component, okay, here below the heading H1 and above the vegetables component. Okay. So how to include the fruits component? Give less than symbol, give fruits and close it. Now you are seeing the output. Okay. So fruits component is having two things. One is non-citrus and another component is citrus. Okay. So here you can see non-citrus and citrus. So fruits component is having the content of non-citrus fruits and citrus fruits. Okay. Now you are going to include this fruits component into the types of food component. Okay. So I have included here the fruits component. So now we can see all the contents here. So that's it. Press Ctrl Enter. Now render a class component to the DOM. Okay. Now both the fruits and vegetable components are defined for you behind the scenes. Okay. So they have created two components behind the scenes. One is fruits and another one is vegetables. Render both components as children of the types of food component. Then render types of food to the DOM. Okay. There is a div with id equal to challenge node available for you to use. So this is very simple. They have created two components called fruits and vegetables behind the scenes. So we have to include both these components here, okay, inside the types of food component. So these will become the children component of the parent types of food component, okay. So we have to include fruits component here using this code, and we have to include vegetables component here, okay, include using this code. And what they are saying is we have to render this parent component. So already in the VS Code editor we know how to render a parent component. Okay. So this is what we did. Okay. So we rendered the parent component types of food using this code. Okay. So just copy this. We can use this code itself. And finally you have to render it. Okay. So paste it. So we are going to render this types of food component, and that is the parent component here in this code, okay, using this code. So we have given the parent component name here, okay, types of food, but the id name is changing, okay. So we have to give the id of challenge node. So change this challenge, challenge node, okay. So now we are getting the output. Press Ctrl Enter. Now write a React component from scratch. Okay, now we are going to write a React component from scratch. So all these things we will be writing by ourselves. So now define a class called myComponent. So give class myComponent. Okay, and that extends react.component. So give react.component and open this with the curly braces, and you have to give constructor. So you can see this code. Okay, like this we have to create constructor, props, super props, render, all these things. Okay, so do the same thing. Constructor will be receiving props. Okay, and open this, and you have to give super of props. Okay, then give semicolon here, and then you can use render method here. So one thing very important here is these things you don't have to understand all these things. Okay, this you have to just remember what you have to write here. Okay, you don't have to understand all these things, how it works. So you don't have to worry about how it works. You just remember these code and write it. Okay, that's enough. So now you are going to use render method here. So give render and open it with curly braces and return it. Okay. So now whatever the code you are writing inside the return statement will be rendered. Okay. Rendering means that will be displayed. That's it. So what they are saying is its render method should return a div that contains h1 tag with text. Okay. So we should be including a div element. So inside this development we are going to write some code, so that will be displayed. Okay. So whenever you are writing code inside the return statement or render method, you have to use a development. Okay, and inside this development only you are going to write your code. So keep that also in your mind. So we have to include a h1 tag here. And you have to display the content of my first React component. Okay, so this will be displayed. Now what we have to do is we have to render this. Okay, so give react dom dot render. So here we are going to give component name. Okay, so the component which we have to render. So the component is my component. So that is what we are going to render. So give my component and give comma, and we have to give document dot get element by id. Okay, and inside this you have to write the id. So inside double quotes you are going to give the id. Okay, the id is nothing but to which HTML page you are going to render this component. Okay, so the id is challenge node here. So give id of challenge node. Okay, so here it is showing some error. So what is the error? Class. Okay, so there is a silly mistake. I have to give react.component, but I have given react.components. Okay, so now we can see the output. Press Ctrl Enter. So now we are going to see pass props to a stateless functional component. Okay, so stateless functional component is nothing but a component which is not having a state. Okay, so far we have not seen what is a state. Okay, so simply remember, if a function is not having a concept called state, this is called a stateless functional component. Okay, so we are going to pass properties to it. Okay, that is what we are going to do. So you can read from this line, okay. It's time to look at another feature very common in React, props, okay. So there is a feature available in React that is called props, okay. In React you can pass props or properties. So props is nothing but properties, okay. You can pass properties to your child components. So from where to where we are going to pass properties? From parent component to child component, okay. So to where you are going to pass property means to the child components. So you have an app component which renders a child component called welcome, okay, which is a stateless functional component. You can pass welcome a user property by writing user equal to mark, okay. So what they are telling here is you have an app component which renders a child component. So what is the parent component here? App, okay. App is the parent component which renders a child component called welcome. So app is the parent component and welcome is the child component. So you can see here we are having a parent component called app and there is a component which is included in the app component, okay, and that is welcome component. So this component which is included in the app component is called the child component, okay. Then what we are doing is you can pass welcome a user property. So what we are doing here is we are passing a property called user with the value of mark to the child component, okay, to the child component. So we will see it in a detailed way. So now what we are going to do is there are calendar and current date components in the code editor, okay. So there is a component called current date and there is a component called calendar. When rendering current date from the calendar component, okay, pass in a property of date assigned to the current date from JavaScript date object. So first of all we have to identify which is the parent component and which is the child component, okay. So here in these lines, okay, you can see a line where you can see when rendering current date from the calendar component, okay. So it means that current date is the child of the calendar component, okay, and you can see current date inside here, okay. You can see current date inside the calendar component. So current date is the child component, okay. So what they are saying here is pass in a property of date assigned to the current date from JavaScript date object. So we have to pass a property called date, okay. So in the parent component you have to give the child component a property, okay, called date and give equal to, and you can see here. So whenever you are giving a value to a property, it should be given inside the parent component, okay. So inside this parent component we are giving the child component a property, okay, like this you have to give, okay. So we have to give a property called date and we have to assign the value for it, okay. So give double quotes. And what is the value we have to give? They are telling us assigned to the current date from JavaScript date object. So we have to add JavaScript date object as the value, okay. So they are telling us to include JavaScript date object, okay. So when it is an object we have to use curly braces, okay, and you have to give the date method here. So why we are using curly braces here? So this is also an important thing. Why we are using a curly brace here? I think so we will be covering it in the upcoming exercises, okay. So this is called JSX, okay. This is called JSX. So JSX is nothing but a combination of HTML and JavaScript. We already know it, okay? So this is the JSX. So JSX will be locating inside the return statement, okay? Or inside the render method. Inside the render method, the JSX will be located. So whenever we are using JSX, okay, whenever we are combining JavaScript and HTML like this, when we use JavaScript code, we have to write it inside the curly brace, okay? So all these things are HTML, okay? This is HTML and this is HTML and this is HTML, but this is JavaScript, okay? Because date method is JavaScript. So whenever we are using JavaScript code inside this JSX, I mean the render method, you have to use curly brace, okay? That's it. Now what we are going to do is then access this prop in the current state, current date component showing its value within the p tags. Okay, note that for prop values to be evaluated as JavaScript, they must be enclosed in curly brackets. Okay, that is what we already told. So this should be included like this inside the curly brackets. So here we know we passed a property called date with the value of date method to the current date component, okay? But we have to create the property here in the current date component, then only we can access it, okay? So in the child component, we will be creating the property name, okay? So what we have to give here is inside the curly braces, you have to give props dot date, okay? So let me explain it. So here also we are having JSX, okay? And these code is HTML. This is also HTML. This is also HTML. But this date is a JavaScript because this is like a variable, okay? So this is a JavaScript, okay? So we have to include it in curly braces, okay? Actually this props.date means, okay, props.date means this date method, okay? Because this is the value of the date. So props.date means this date method. So this date method is a JavaScript. So we are enclosing it inside the curly brackets, okay? And we should not simply give date, okay? Then it will not be accessed. So what we have to give is we have to give this props.date. So this date will be considered. We should not say consider. This date will be understood that it is a props, okay? So we are giving props.date. So when we are giving props.date, this date is understood that it is a props, okay? So that's it. In the child component we will be giving props.date, okay? Then in the parent component we will be assigning the value for the date, okay? That's it. Press Ctrl Enter. So there is some error. The date prop should be generated by calling date method. Actually one error I have committed here, and that is double quotes, okay? So we should not include double quotes. So when we are assigning a value for date, we should be using double quotes only if a string. For example, if I am assigning the date value as, for example, 18. So this is a string, okay, 18 is a string. Then only I have to include the double quotes. Okay, otherwise I should not use double quotes. I should simply give curly brace and method, okay, date method. That's it. Press Ctrl Enter. Now what we are going to do is pass an array as props, okay. So we are going to pass property with an array. For example, so let us copy this code in the VS Code editor, okay, and delete these things. And which is the component which we are going to render? This is the main component, okay, to do. So I am going to give to do here, okay. And you are having the list component, okay, list component inside the to do component. So list component is the child component and the to do component is the main component, okay, parent component. And what they are telling here is, here they have passed array as a property. So that is what they are saying here. As array is a JavaScript, it should be included in the curly brackets, okay. So that's it. Now there are list and to do components, okay. When rendering each list from the to do component, pass in a tasks property assigned to an array of to do task, okay. Then access this task array in the list component, showing its value within the p element. Use join to display the props.tasks array in the p element as a comma separated list. Today's list should have at least 2 tasks and tomorrow should have at least 3 tasks, okay. So here we are having 2 separate tasks. One is for today, so you can see here today task, okay, today task, and another one is tomorrow's task, okay. And we have to pass 2 arrays here. One is for today's task and another one is for tomorrow's task, okay. So what I am going to do is I am going to create an array, okay, and give it the props value. So first of all, what we have to do is we have to create the property in the child component, okay. So we are creating props here, okay, inside the curly brace. So give props dot tasks, okay. So that is what they are saying. Tasks should be the property that we have to create, okay. So then what we are going to do is we are going to give the value for this property of task, okay. So in the today what we have to do is we have to create the tasks as an array. So we have to give, so this is the child element, okay, list, okay. So in this child element we are going to give value for this properties, okay. So what we are going to do here in the list, you have to give the property and that is nothing but tasks, okay. So give tasks here equal to, actually this is an array, so you should be enclosing it in curly braces and you should give array here, okay. And what they are telling is today's list should have at least 2 tasks, okay. So this is today, so I am going to give 2 tasks. For example, running, working, okay. And tomorrow should have at least 3 tasks. So this is the tomorrow's list. So I am going to give the value for the properties here. So give tasks equal to curly brace, and inside the array you are going to create 3 tasks. For example, swimming, walking, and playing, okay. And what you can understand from here is we have created a property called task, okay, and that will be stored inside the paragraph, okay, inside the paragraph. So this paragraph which is having the property of task will be inserted here, okay, will be inserted here, here and also here, okay, and at the place where the child component is included, we are giving the value for it, okay. So simply we have declared the property here, the property name is task, and we have included the paragraph which is having that property here, okay, using that component name. So we have included it here, but we do not have value for the task, okay. We are having the property of task, but we do not have the value for it. So we have included an array as the value, okay. So the task will be running and working at this place. And here also we have included the component, okay, and that component is having the property of tasks, but we do not have value, so we have given the value here, okay. And in the output you can see running, working, okay, swimming, walking, playing. So this will be displayed like this when we are including it in an array, okay. So what we have to do is we have to separate this with commas, okay. So what we are going to do is we are going to join these separate elements with a comma, okay, and this also we are going to join these separate elements with comma. So what you have to do is you have to give props dot tasks, okay, and then give dot join, okay. So now all the tasks will be joined, okay. So all the tasks should be joined, okay. And when they are joined, they are nothing but a string, okay. So we have to give double quotes and give comma and then a space, okay. So every element should be joined with a comma and a space, okay. So when you are just putting comma, you can see there is no space between the words. So you, after the comma there should be some space. So give some space. That's it. Press Ctrl Enter. Now we are going to use default props, okay. So this allows you to specify what a prop value should be if no value is explicitly provided. For example, if we have declared a property, okay, and we did not give the value, so what will happen? So that property will not be having any value. So for that, even if we did not provide the value for the property, some value can be assigned using default props. So let us see it. If you, for example, if you declare my component dot default props equal to location San Francisco, you have defined a location prop that's set to the string San Francisco, okay, until you specify otherwise. So if you have declared a property called location, okay, and you did not give the value for it, the default value San Francisco will be assigned. So that's it, okay. React assigns default props if props are undefined, but if you pass null as the value for a prop, it will remain null, okay. So now the code editor shows a shopping cart component, defined default props on this component, which is specify a prop items with a value of 0. So we are going to create a property called items and we are going to set the default value as 0, okay. So that is what we are going to do now. So after the component, you have to declare the default props, okay. So this is the syntax, First of all, you have to give the component name, and that is shopping cart. Okay, shopping cart, and you have to give default props. Okay, then you have to give equal to and an object. So this object will be having the property of location, and the value will be San Francisco for this component. But for our component, we have to create a property called items. Okay, and we have to set the value as 0. So semicolon should not be here. Okay. So now you can see we have created the property called items with the value of 0. Okay. So if I have to use this property of items, what I can do is, so you can give anywhere between this development. Okay. So I am just giving below the heading h1. So I am just giving curly braces props dot items. Okay. So now we can see below the heading shopping cart component, the value of items is shown here, that is 0. Okay. So that's it. Press Ctrl Enter. Now override the default props. Okay. The ability to set default props is a useful feature in React. The way to override the default props is to explicitly set the prop values for a component. So what we can do is explicitly we can set a prop value to a component. Okay, that is what they are saying here. The shopping cart components now renders a child component items. Okay. So we are going to do some simple thing. For example, here we are having a component called items. Okay, and we have created a property here. Okay, props.quantity. So whatever value is assigned here, it will be shown like this: current quantity of items in cart, like that. Okay, and that is 0. So there is a component called item that is having a property of quantity. Now we have declared a default property. Okay, using items.default props, and that quantity will be having default value of 0. So this 0 will be assigned here. Okay, will be assigned here if no value is externally provided. Okay, so far we have not provided any value for the quantity. So we have only set the default property as 0. Okay. So now this will be taking the value of 0. So you can see the output here 0. Okay. But what if we have to provide a value? Okay. So simply what we can do is go to your parent component. So this is the parent component which is having the child component of items. Okay. So you can see here. So this item component is stored inside this parent component. Okay. So what if you have to give a value for this quantity? So simply give quantity. Okay. Quantity equal to, and give curly braces. And now we have to give quantity. Okay. So that should be in number. So that should be a number. So what we can do is inside this curly brace we can give the quantity. Okay. For example, I am going to give the quantity as 150. So even if it is a number, you have to give it in curly braces, because this number is also considered as a JavaScript. Okay. The only thing which you don't have to give it in curly brace is a string. Okay. So within double quotes you can insert the string. But when you are dealing with numbers or array or anything or a method, you have to give it inside the curly brace only. Okay. So now you have given the value for the quantity as 150, so it is displayed here. Okay. If the value is not given here, okay, if the value is not given here, so delete this. The default value of the quantity is 0 will be displayed here. Okay. So now I am giving the value. Now 150 is displayed. That's it. Press Ctrl Enter. So what they are saying is the item component should have a prop of quantity 10. Okay. So they are telling us to give the value of 10. So we are giving 10. Okay. Press Ctrl Enter. So now I would like to conclude this session. Okay. So from this exercise we will be seeing in the next class. Okay. So now I am concluding this session. So thank you for watching my videos, friends. Thank you for supporting me, and please support me and please subscribe me. Okay. Thank you.